Welcome to First Parish in Bedford, a Unitarian Universalist congregation where we come together every week as a people with diverse beliefs and a shared commitment to bring more peace, more love, and more justice, and more joy into the world. Whoever you are, whomever you love, whether you worship one God, many gods, or no gods, you are welcome here. I want to say a special welcome to all of our visitors this morning in person or on Zoom. We are glad you're with us here today. Here in the sanctuary, you are invited to fill out a blue connection card, which you'll find at the end of the pews. You can give that to one of the ushers during the collection, and we will add you to our mailing list. In Zoom, we will put a link in the chat to a form you can also fill out as your virtual blue connection card. Parents and caregivers of little ones, there is a nursery available downstairs for your convenience. but we are always delighted to have little ones here in our sanctuary as well. After the service, everyone is welcome to join us for coffee, tea, and fellowship in the common room. We have some announcements today. This Sunday, January 18th, join us after the service in the Bacon Room up here for a book discussion, whether or not you've actually read the book. So, low bar of entry. The service berry and abundance and Abundance and Reciprocity in the Natural World by Robin Wall Kimmerer. The event is coordinated by the Environmental Justice Committee and will be facilitated by Reverend Jamie. Also, this coming Friday, there is a Food for Thought. This upcoming event is called At Our Family Table, and it will be from 6 to 8 in the common room this coming Friday. We'll welcome the new year with a community potluck, inviting families to bring a dish their family enjoys to share. If you'd like to, you can also share a story or a memory connected to your dish. Together, we'll reflect on family traditions, ancestry, and what matters most to us while enjoying food and conversation across generations. This is an event for all ages and an opportunity to connect across all generations, and it will be hosted by Nate Sellers.
Should we sing? Should we light the chalice? We'll do both, don't worry. Our opening words this morning come from Reverend Gretchen Haley. I've used them before, but they're always relevant somehow. What's going to happen? Will everything be okay? What can I do? In these days, we find ourselves too often stuck with these questions on repeat. What's going to happen? Will everything be okay? What can I do? We grasp at signs and markers, articles of news and analysis, Facebook memes and forwarded emails, as if the new zodiac, capable of forecasting all that life may yet bring our way, as if we could prepare. As if life had ever made any promise of making sense or turning out the way we'd thought. As if we are not also actors in this unfolding story. For this hour we gather to surrender to the mystery, to release ourselves from needing to know, the yearning to have it all figured out, and also the burden of believing we either have all the control or none. Here in our song and our silence, our stories and our sharing, we make space for a new breath, a new healing, a new possibility to take root. That is courage, forged in the fire of our coming together and felt in the spirit that comes alive in this act of faith, that we believe still a new world is possible, that we are creating it already, here and now. And now Brad will introduce our opening hymn.
Actually, besides introducing the opening hymn, I thought I'd point out the disco ball, right? Just because I can't light the chalice, I can't do the introduction, so we have a disco ball. So our opening hymn is page 1008, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place. We know it because we've sung it before, but I just wanted to point out that the very last time that we go back to the beginning, it keeps repeating back to the beginning, but that very last time, as it goes to the top of the second page, it's got that little coda, and it drops down to the bottom of the last page for the ending. And the reason I did that was we rehearsed it with choir, and the choir got mixed up, and so therefore I wanted to make sure you didn't get mixed up. So please rise in body or spirit, and let us sing When Our Heart is in a Holy Place.
I know. It's that new order of worship. We're going to stay standing for our unison affirmation that we say together in English and in Spanish each Sunday. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. El amor es el espíritu de esta iglesia, y el servicio es su ley. Este es nuestro gran pacto. Vivir juntos en paz, buscar la verdad en espíritu de amor y ayudarnos los unos a los otros.
Good morning. Today's story is titled The Itch. In the town of Everstill, everyone was very good at not noticing. If a game wasn't fair, the people said, well, that's just how it's played. If someone was left out, people would say, they'll find their turn. And if a rule hurt somebody, people would say, well, let's not scratch at it. It will make it worse. Because in Everstill, scratching made things messy. One morning, though, Pip woke up with an itch. It wasn't on his arm or his nose. It was inside his thoughts. It tingled when he saw the same kids always winning the games. It prickled when he noticed the same families always carrying the heaviest loads. Pip tried to ignore it. He sat on his hands, he hummed, and he thought about cake. Like most of us, right? But the itch grew. By lunchtime, Pip noticed others wiggling too. A girl tapping her foot, a teacher pretending to rub her temple, but then furiously scratching her scalp, a shoekeeper shifting from side to side. Does anyone else feel this itch? Pip asked. Shh, said people in the town. If you scratch it, it might get worse. But guess what? Pip scratched. He asked a question out loud. Why do the same kids never get picked? The itch spread. People felt it when Pip asked other questions like, why are some voices always quieter and others always shout nonsense? Why do the rules fit some people but not others? Everstill got very, very, very uncomfortable, and everyone was itchy. People argued. They heavily sighed. People wished for the quiet to come back. This feels awful, they said. It does, Pip agreed. But it felt awful before, too. We were just very good at ignoring it. So the town began to scratch, little by little. Not carelessly, but strategically. They scratched and they began to talk. They scratched and they began to listen. They fought to change rules. They scratched the itch that was always there. The itch burned for a while, but then slowly softened. And then one day, Pip woke up and noticed something new. The itch wasn't completely gone, but now it showed up only when something wasn't fair. And instead of being afraid of it, Everstill scratched because they learned something important. Some uncomfortable feelings aren't meant to be ignored. They're meant to guide you until things heal. Now, let's sing our children to class.
Good morning. My name is Marge Heckman. I'm a member of the lay pastoral team here at First Parish. And at this time in the service, we invite anyone in the sanctuary who would like to come forward and light a candle of joy or concern to do so. And then we will check in on Zoom. And I will be at the candle stand after the service if anyone would like to light a candle in private. Please try to keep your comments brief and tell us your name. I will light one last candle for all those joys and concerns that we keep in our hearts. And I will be at the candle stand after the service if anyone would like to light a candle in private.
So while the choir is coming up here, I thought I would introduce the anthem that we're singing today. It has a very special story to it. A very good composer by the name, or wonderful composer by the name of Innocent Okechukwu, came from Nigeria a few years ago to study at the Music Conservatory in Cambridge, the Longy School of Music. And after he completed his studies there, he's had quite a journey to get from there to the University of Iowa, where he is now doing graduate studies. Innocent came to this country in search of something safer because he is also gay, and it's against the law in Nigeria to be gay. And when he left this area, he's had some difficult times as he's gone to Louisiana and now to Iowa, where things are much better. I'm very good friends with him. I attended his wedding last weekend in Chicago, and First Parish commissioned this piece from him. And so it was commissioned for Music Sunday, but we're doing it for you today. So this is the first time anyone will have heard this piece.
Good morning. I'm Mark Bailey, and I'm here to talk about holding space for all in the context of the February 8th vote for the Capitol campaign. Vote yes. Jack Mendelson said that ministry is to be called out of our pretensions, poses, and protective facades into the great open windy world. That great open windy world is calling us to invest in this physical space so we can hold space for everyone who needs what we have to offer. I have the privilege of working with teens. People ask me, how do you do it? I don't do as much as they think. I show up. I create the conditions. I trust how much the community does for itself when you hold the space thoughtfully and with intention. In recent years, the senior youth group was down to just 2 consistent attendees. We never discussed canceling it. We trusted that if we kept the invitation alive, they would come. Last Sunday, 11 youth, cooking pancakes in the kitchen, eating together, planning for City Reach next week, learning about meditation, and staying long past the end of the scheduled session. Reverend Jamie stood up here every Sunday and said, "We have a nursery. Babies are always welcome in the sanctuary," even when there were no babies in sight. He was holding the space, creating the invitation. C.B. Beale calls this preemptive radical inclusion, a way to embody beloved community by our willingness to take seriously the idea that all of us means all of us. It's the practice of creating just, loving, and creative spaces in the world, thinking intentionally about who isn't already in the room. This is more than putting "all are welcome" on a banner. This is designing our physical space with universal access in mind before people arrive. To grow this community, we can't be too prescriptive about who we invite. Our community is a gem, multifaceted, brilliant from every angle. When newcomers approach this space, we should present whichever facet will most appeal to them. We should meet them where they are. Maybe somebody comes because they've been out front with us bearing witness. Maybe it's for their teen to do OWL, or their kid to do choir. Maybe they're on the spectrum and saw the neurodiversity flag. Each facet is an invitation. By investing in this building with universal access and preemptive radical inclusion, we're holding up a beacon of invitation to the community. The higher we lift that beacon, the brighter it shines, the more colors radiate out, the more facets we present, the more people will heed that call. Forest Church wrote of the cathedral of the world, one divine light shining through many windows, each offering different flavors of illumination to those inside. Let's invert that metaphor. A light of beloved community inside here, shining so brightly, with so many wavelengths out through these windows, that people outside decide they need to see what's happening in here. Each window, each wavelength, each facet, an illumination, an invitation. The Capitol campaign we're voting on February 8th makes this vision real. A new range so we can cook together, youth making breakfast, food for thought, First Friday potlucks, the pole-capping pancake breakfast. Improved acoustics, so meetings work for people who have trouble understanding what's being said. Universal access to our rear garden from the common room. Demountable rails here at the center of the chancel. I sprang up here this morning without aid. I won't always be able to do that. Wheelchair accessible seating at the rear, where Rich liked to be. Some people prefer the back. Accessibility means options. Space for rocking chairs for baby-holding people. Maybe a play area. These spaces say more powerfully than words, babies are welcome here. Children are welcome here. Families are welcome here. All families. We offered the teens a small chunk of funds for their decision in this capital campaign. Do you know what Now's first thought was? Trees. Peter was about to say video games. Now's first thought was trees. Trees that could be the first trees climbed by a new generation of children, just as the tree that's no longer there was for them. Talk about holding space. Talk about thinking about who isn't in the room. Children not yet born, families who haven't found us yet. Now is planting trees he'll never see fully grown, so those future children can climb them. Theodore Parker said, "Democracy means not, I am as good as you are, but you are as good as I am." Not tolerance, not even acceptance. Radical equality. Preemptive radical inclusion 170 years ago. This work in our building also frees our ministers to build community rather than putting their fingers in the dikes or the sprinkler system. We believe in a future where this building is fully accessible, where people of all abilities participate fully, where babies are celebrated, where rocking chairs wait for parents we haven't met yet, where teens plant trees for children not yet born, where light shines out through so many windows, in so many wavelengths, that people across Bedford and beyond see the color that calls to them and come home. Hold space for people who are here and people who aren't here yet. Practice preemptive radical inclusion. Invest now in the accommodations, the accessibility, the welcome that future members need. Lift up this beacon higher, brighter, more radiant, so more people, more kinds of people, every color, every creed and kind, can find their way home. Hold fast to this dream. This meeting house matters. 300 years of history matter. The next 300 years matter more. And they start with us. It's our turn. The world is windy, folks. The world is hard. The world is hurting. People need what we have. They need community. They need welcome. They need space held for them. They need us to believe in them before they can see themselves here. They need us to put out rocking chairs They need us to plant trees. They need all of us. All of us means all of us. A new world is possible, created already, here and now. Let's lift the beacon. Let's hold the space.
Well, I think my work is done here this morning. But I do believe that no more words need to be said to introduce the offering, so I will invite you to give generously this morning to support this beautiful vision that Mark has cast and illuminated for us.
When James Luther Adams, a young Unitarian minister and newly appointed professor of theology at Meadville Lombard Theological School, went to Germany in 1935 to study with some of the greatest theologians of the time, he confronted a deeply unsettling fact. Germany's churches were not effectively resisting the rise of Nazism. A convert to Unitarianism from Baptist fundamentalism, Adams had high expectations for Germany's long tradition of liberal theology. After all, a century earlier, Unitarians had found the inspiration for transcendentalism in the new German theology of their time. But German liberalism hadn't foreseen the Nazi threat, nor did it seem to offer adequate resources for resistance. Adams came to admire the German confessing church movement, whose members did actively oppose Hitler at great personal risk. He later described the impact of his experience. Let me put it autobiographically and say that in Nazi Germany, I soon came to the question, what is it in my preaching and my political action that would stop this? It is a liberal attitude to say that we keep ourselves informed and read the best papers on these matters and perhaps join a voluntary association now and then. But to be involved with other people so that it costs and so that one exposes the evil of society requires something like conversion, something more than an attitude. It requires a sense that there is something wrong and I must be different from the way I have been.
I must be different from the way I have been. That's something I feel a lot of the time on both big and small scales. I'm not much for New Year's resolutions, but if I were to sum up a New Year's resolution for this year, it would be to even more fully face hard things. One of those things I've been facing is a more logistical one. It has to do with time, which you all probably know by now I struggle with mightily, trying to really face how little of it I actually have each day to do the many things I hope to accomplish. But that's another story for another sermon. The other kind of facing I'm trying to do better this year is the facing of the news, and not just glancing at a headline and saying, oh God, another thing, and then recompartmentalizing, but really taking in what is happening. Not all of it, because we have to maintain that balancing act between staying sane and staying human. And I knew that in that balance, I was falling too far on the side of not really looking. What a time to resolve to more fully take the news in. Not that there's ever a good time, really. As one of my favorite poems, A Blessing for When the World is Ending, says, look, the world is always ending somewhere. And therein lies another balancing act. On the one hand, we are living through unprecedented and horrific state violence and authoritarianism. And on the other hand, this is par for the course. We can run the risk of underreacting and retreating into cynicism if we don't acknowledge how dire things are right now. And we can run the risk of becoming paralyzed with fear and alienating would-be allies if we don't acknowledge that there is precedent for such situations both here and in other countries. This is when I have a meme to show you. Thank you. So I came across this meme, and it reflected one part of this balancing act, right? It's one of the two sides, the side that says, it's always been like this. For any who don't see the visual, there's a person who appears to be white, dabbing a tear and saying, this is not who we really are as America. And then there's a black person leaning back and saying, well, not really saying, but the text says, slavery, Native American genocide, Trail of Tears, the Civil War, Chinese Exclusion Act, poll tax, Jim Crow, Tuskegee experiments, Japanese internment camps, Hiroshima, Nagasaki, COINTELPRO, prison industrial complex. You get the point. Now, this is one part of it, but maybe not the most helpful way to think about it. Not that memes are ever the most helpful way to think about anything. It reminds me of the Langston Hughes poem, Let America Be America Again. Langston Hughes, who wrote the text for our anthem, the black poet of the 20th century of the Harlem Renaissance. He wrote, let America be the dream the dreamers dreamed. Let it be that great strong land of love where never kings connive nor tyrants scheme, that any man be crushed by one above. It never was America to me. Oh, let my land be a land of liberty, crowned with no false patriotic wreath, but opportunity real and life free, equality in the air we breathe. There's never been equality for me, nor freedom in this homeland of the free, wrote Hughes. And though for me America has been America, I can empathize. I can empathize with the feelings that some people of color had when watching white people react to the killing of Renee Good. And also, I understand why, when I watched this queer mom in a city that I went to college in get shot and killed, I felt different in my body than I feel when I see people I don't relate to as much. Which doesn't mean that I didn't care. It doesn't mean I wasn't in the streets for George Floyd or Mike Brown. It doesn't mean that I didn't care when other people were killed in ICE custody. And I know that you care too. You care, you have your Black Lives Matter banner up, you have done so much work, you cared about ICE before this moment, you did the hard work of becoming a sanctuary congregation. I know you also know, and you also care. And so then I wonder, what is the difference between those who can see something horrible happen and they say, that's awful and we need to do something, and people who look and say, well, that must be justified, and so I will somehow decide that it's okay, and those who can't bear to look at all? I read a book recently, well, listened to a book recently, called They Came for the Schools. And it focused on a specific community in Texas, but also at the national landscape of school boards during the first Trump administration and after. And it began with a story of this particular suburb in Texas with wonderful schools that everyone wanted to move there. They came for the schools. And it was a predominantly white community, and a video surfaced of some teens saying the N-word and, thinking it was funny, and these were white teens, and it made a stir in the community. And they began to grapple with it, and it was uncomfortable. And I really could understand that that was uncomfortable. I remember when I was in college, and there was a big kerfuffle because a couple students who were not Black had worn a very violently racist costume to a politically incorrect themed party. Why that was a good idea to have in the first place, it's hard to say, but it was one of those moments where people start speaking out. And I loved McAllister, my sweet little liberal arts college in St. Paul, Minnesota. I loved it there, and I felt like I really belonged for like the first time in my life. And it was not easy to hear that this place was a racist place. And it wasn't easy to hear from some of my friends, from my dorm mates, my classmates, about their experiences of racism on campus. I know it's not easy. But what happened in this Texas suburb was that after an initial, writing up of a policy to make the schools more inclusive and address racism, reasonable things, and not just racism, because as people of color started speaking out, then queer people started speaking out, Jewish people started speaking out, and all of a sudden there was a lot of people saying, hey, actually this school hasn't been good for me either. And so they were going to tackle this. But then something happened, and some people that didn't like that started forming a families pack to fund far-right candidates to get elected to the school board, and they took drastic measures. Extreme censorship, prohibiting teachers from talking about things like the civil rights movement or slavery or the Holocaust, taking out all books that mention LGBTQ people out of the libraries. It became national news. It was so extreme. People were so threatened by the idea of taking discrimination seriously that they just tried to erase it, pretend that it didn't exist at all. And I know that for some people who take this approach, it's because they have money and power and they want to keep their money and power, and these types of systems, racism and patriarchy, they're great ways to keep your money and power. But that's not why everyone in that community felt that way. That's not why so many people react this way. And I think it must be that it's because something deep about their identity sense of safety, sense of who they are, is tied up in a story about who we are, and if that story is threatened, then their very being is threatened. So then, what do we do? Well, I didn't know. I was like, well, I've posed a really good question in this sermon so far, but I have no idea what the answer is. So I asked my partner, Tara. I asked them because they're part of If Not Now, which is, from their website, a movement of U.S. Jews organizing their community to end U.S. support for Israel's apartheid system and demand equality, justice, and a thriving future for all Palestinians and Israelis. And I know that that is hard work. And I know that it's deeply tied to people's sense of identity and safety. And so I asked them, well, what do you think we should do? And they told me about an event they went to at Lair House. And it was an event about Jews talking to other Jews about Palestine. And they said, oh, I thought I'd go in and we'd hear from the teacher about these are 5 talking points, or these are what you should say. And they kind of laughed at themselves and said, no, of course, the vast majority of the session was about how to regulate yourself. It was about how to calm down your own body. Because we cannot actually hear each other. We cannot connect with one another if we are in a fight or flight survival mode in our bodies. And the only way we can help someone else be in a different place in their bodies is if we are feeling safe and calm in our own bodies. So it was a lot about regulation and then also about asking questions. None of it was about saying anything. It was about calming yourself and asking questions. And while on the one hand that is very intuitive, on the other hand, I think it's a reminder I need regularly. But I want to be clear. This technique, this calming yourself and asking questions, this is for interpersonal interactions. This is not to say that there is not a time and a place to be disruptive and to be very clear. That's a different tactic called agitation, and it works in a different way. It works for those who are already willing to see the hard realities and move into action, and it also works to show those you are targeting that you mean business. Martin Luther King Jr. wrote in his letter to white moderates where he was defending against those who were saying, now, yes, we agree with your points, but you need to be a little more calm. You're taking things a little too far. It's getting a little wild down there in the South. And he wrote and he said, actually, we who engage in nonviolent direct action are not the creators of tension. We merely bring it to the surface. We merely bring to the surface the hidden tension that is already alive. We bring it out in the open where it can be seen and dealt with, like a boil that can never be cured so long as it is covered up, but must be opened with all its ugliness to the natural medicines of air and light. Injustice must be exposed with all the tension its exposure creates to the light of human conscience and the air of national opinion before it can be cured. This is true in our country, and it is true on a smaller scale too. Those of you who have healed from childhood trauma or ever told the truth about someone who hurt you, you know that it is very hard to heal what cannot be openly acknowledged. And facing these types of things is hard. It can be easier sometimes to just say, oh, I'm fine, or it wasn't that bad. And then it is a hard thing sometimes to say, no, that wasn't okay, or that really impacted me. So often the hard work of personal growth is feeling our painful feelings. And I wish there was an easier way out. So did our UU theologian, James Luther Adams. I imagine how excited he was to go to Germany and meet his theological heroes. He didn't want to see what he saw there in the 1930s. But he could not shy away from what he knew to be true, and it shaped his theology for the rest of his life. One of the theological tenets he held that was important to him, that was the fifth of 5 points he made, including things about how we have to make good happen, it won't just happen on its own, and that, religious liberalism is an ongoing tradition. The fifth one said, liberalism holds that the resources, parentheses, divine and human, that are available for the achievement of meaningful change justify an attitude of ultimate optimism. In other words, we should have hope. And I believe that he is right. Humans are amazing. And we can heal from terrible things, and we can feel through our pain and be transformed. Look how many people are resisting this fascism in this country. Look how we keep showing up at the ICE office on Wednesdays in bigger and bigger crowds. Look how the people of Minneapolis are caring for their neighbors. How many resources have flowed there to provide food for people who are too scared to leave their homes. We have the resources to face the hard things we need to face, and we are not alone. We can regulate ourselves and ask good questions. We can help others to face these things too. We can be honest about the realities of this country and of our families and of ourselves. We can refuse to cover up the boils. And while divine resources may not resonate with some of us, for Martin Luther King and for James Luther Adams, it certainly did. They drew on a higher power as a resource, and you might too. Or you might draw instead on one another or on a spiritual practice. But either way, in that spirit, I invite you to join in singing our closing hymn, God of Grace and God of Glory. Our closing words come from the end of the Langston Hughes poem. Oh, let America be America again, the land that never has been yet and yet must be, the land where every man is free, the land that's mine, the poor man's, Indians, Negroes, me. Who made America? Whose sweat and blood, whose faith and pain, whose hand at the foundry, whose plow in the rain, must bring back our mighty dream again. Sure, call me any ugly name you choose. The steel of freedom does not stain. For those who live like leeches on the people's lives, we must take back our land again, America. Oh, yes, I say it plain, America never was America to me. And yet I swear this oath, America will be.